Tri-Cities group partnering with the Justice for Iran. We have an exciting program today and lots of information, and we encourage everyone to circulate. But my very first duty, my name is Hazel. I'm a long-time member with Amnesty International, and my first task today as MC is to invite Ed Hall, the former chief of the Coquitlam First Nation, to do an acknowledgement and a welcome. Yes, thank you so much, Ed. And he's brought April.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction into the gathering here. Good day, Ice Whale. ESFOL, Stop Halamed Hall, Tunisqueak, Talisanak, Coquitlam Tomach. OCM to CAS, Eatonalsni, Machnatin, Amisat, Coquitlam, Coquitlam Tomach. E. Kosalish and all. Good day, good afternoon everyone. Ed Hall is my name. Scapela is my traditional given name. I am from the Coquitlam First Nation on my maternal side. Here with me today is my little grandniece, April. She's the fourth generation of the family members that are here. And I've given you a traditional Hunkaminam welcome to the ancestral unceded lands of the Coquitlam people, shared by many Kosalish and all others. And the language dialect that I've been sharing with you is Hunkaminam. It is the first dialect that was spoken on these lands before they were settled on by many others who traveled oceans and other continents, and I just wanted everybody to know a little bit about that. Coquitlam stands for red fish up the river, but in an English spelling it's Coquitlam, but Coquitlam, and then the city, the settlers, they have their own spelling of Coquitlam, so that's where we are. And yeah, I just want to be thankful for being invited here to this gathering for Amnesty International Tri-Cities branch, Group 176. It is also an acknowledgement too to the World Human Rights the 75th year anniversary, which feels very special to me to be here to share a few words with you and to acknowledge everything that has happened around the world and whatnot, and especially over in Iran right now, and there's just so much it's beyond our own individual controls there, but collectively when we work together and use our voices and lobby the politicians and whatnot to all levels of the government, we do get heard and get things done, and we work together, we even make more things happen. And I too know as a First Nations person, that the rights have been violated since the 1800s, and there's just a lot moving forward there that can be worked on to make things better. But the focus here today would be for the Iranian people, I've come to know a lot in my social circles here in the Tri-Cities, and even to as far away as Vancouver, North Vancouver, and everywhere. So it's really nice. It's my honor to be here and to share a few words with you, and to be actually really humbled by what everybody here is doing and being a good audience. And I know you do a lot in your time to be able to try and make things a better place to be in this world. And we have to do everything that we can to make it a better world, especially for these youngsters that we have that are bringing up. April is only 5, and everything that we do, we have to set the table for the future generations. So it takes a lot of forward thinking and whatnot. In our indigenous ways, we like to try and think 7 generations ahead. And when there's a lot of damage done, it may take several generations just to repair it. And we're on that path now. So work together, speak together, look out for one another, and yes, do your best. Hi Sepka, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Edward. That was, we should make you an honorary member of Amnesty International. You said many of the things that we we agree with and definitely try to espouse. So it's now my pleasure to call on Joy, who's a member of our group. We always start all our meetings with a lighting of the candle, which signifies the light that prisoners and people being persecuted, the light that we shine on their state. And so we like to remind ourselves what we do as Amnesty International members, and I'm sure you, as Justice for Iran, would also be lighting candles. Joy.
Thank you, Hazel. Can you hear me at the back?
Yes.
Great. That's my goal in life, is to be heard at the back. So I've got a really fancy, I don't know if it's run out of power yet, but it's great. Okay. And we put barbed wire, whatever way we can, around our candles to signify that we're an amnesty group trying to get people out of their prisons. Is that better? No. No?
That is.
Good? Okay. So, I hope this works.
Yes.
Okay. It's not an electric one at the top, like it was when we bought it. Oh, come on. I might need a real net. Here, can you see it? Yes. There. I know you can't all see it. Anyway, at times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lit a flame within us. And we hope that we will forward those flames and keep on. I love your phrase, Ed, of setting the table for justice anywhere we can in the world. Thank you.
So we'll keep the candle going until the end of today. And now it's my pleasure to call on Farad Soofi, who doesn't need any introduction. So I won't introduce him, but he will.
Hello, yeah.
You don't need.
And my voice is, I think, I don't need a microphone.
You might at the back. Some of us are hard of hearing.
So, greeting everyone. Today, the world celebrates Human Rights Day. This day marks the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a global commitment to recognize the fundamental rights that everyone is entitled as a human. Human rights are universal, and it is crucial reminding each other, which is reminding one another of our shared humanity. In times in despair, we can look for inspiration and hope in the work of dedicated human rights defenders. People like Nelson Mandela, Narges Mohammadi, and many others, which today there are, and some of them are unknown. Many of those human rights workers which is working are unknown, and these are the few people who are known worldwide. And many others which is not known. Myself, I emigrated from Iran 52 years ago, when the regime was minority. That time was minority and headed by Shah, a king. Also, he had, and the system did not interfere in details of everybody's daily life, like today this regime is doing. This regime is interfering in everything. But that time, your personal life was not interfered. But in that time, the king and also the system did not interfere in details of everybody's life. But there was no freedom of political expression. or any opposition to the policies of the system in that time. So for example, you could not have any book you want to read, or newspaper was not allowed, the news media was not allowed to reflect the things which were political. So if you were opposed to the system and the Shah, you could go to prisons, you could be tortured, you could be executed. Not as many as we have today, but still there was that system. So when I came to Canada, which is 52 years ago, I found out there was an organization named Amnesty International, which was taking effective steps toward the release of political prisoners. Not in Iran, everywhere. But because I came from Iran, I saw the system, I knew we have political prisoners, so I joined Amnesty International 46 years ago. And since then, 10th of December, for example, is the International Human Rights Day. Every year we are celebrating, we are bringing to attention of the people in Canada, which human rights is a very, very important, and it is being abused in many other countries. I'm coming from Iran, even 52 years ago, but I care about people who are detained just for their views, not for anything else. So when my brother was arrested and imprisoned and tortured in 1986 by this regime, myself and many other activists with Amnesty International, we tried to take a step so maybe you can, be effective to release them. Some of them were released, but sadly my brother was executed after 2 years. So Amnesty International still today is campaigning for release of prisoners of conscience. And in recently they had a report. So I will be, the report came recently, and I will be quotation from that report, which came just last week. In that report, I just bring you, it's a long report. I encourage everybody to go read it, but I'll bring you a small, what this report says. Intelligence and security agents in Iran used rape
Intelligence and security agents in Iran use rape and other sexual violence to torture, punish, and inflict lasting physical and psychological damage on protesters, including children as young as 12. The harrowing testimonies we collected point to a wider pattern in the use of sexual violence as a key weapon in Iranian authorities' armory of repression.
Thank you.
Thank you, Farad. Those are difficult words, and more difficult to even allow ourselves to imagine it. So I've got to find my place. We're just going to have a quick video while that gets going, and it's about Amnesty's role in Iran, but I want to encourage you, if you see these tables over here, there are petitions and letters for you to sign. They're for political prisoners in Iran and Honduras and Central America and South America. You can see the flags of the country. So I really would encourage you, it does make a difference. It makes a difference to people's treatment when authorities know that there are people around the world that know about what they're doing and care about what they're doing and protest. So please, I really urge you to do that. And we have some Amnesty merchandise and a few things you could spend some money on. Christmas is coming up. And I just really would encourage you to sign some of our petitions and our letters. certainly there's going to be a break, so you can do that. And now I would like to introduce, well actually I don't know too much about the video, but it's one that the Amnesty International produced specially for this event. So here it is.
هنوزم که هنوز پیدا نشده، نمیدونن، همه جا رو گشتن. خیلی وقتا امید داشتن، چندین سال امید داشتن بلکه از یه جایی خبری برسه، یه چیزی بگن تو تهران، بگن تو کرمانشاه هنوز زنده است. مادر پدر انسان منم میگفتم بلکه امیدوارم اینجوری باشه.
In late July 1988, several thousand political activists held in prisons across Iran suddenly disappeared. These were mostly young men and women, in some cases just teenagers when they were arrested, who had been unjustly tried and imprisoned years earlier simply for their political opinions and peaceful activities such as distributing opposition leaflets and attending demonstrations. Their families then spent months desperately searching for information about their loved ones. After months of being lied to by the authorities, they began to learn the devastating truth. The authorities had executed their relatives in secret and had dumped their bodies at night, mostly in unmarked mass graves.
من خیلی از این موضوعی که بچه‌ها رفته بودن خیلی تو استرس بودم دیگه، حالت خشمگین داشتم نسبت بهش. چیز می‌شدم میگفتم همسرم چی شده و بچه‌ها چی شدن، که برگشت گفت که اعدام. و اینجوری وایساد دستش اینجوری کرد گفت اعدامش کردیم.
و همونجا اصلا من دیگه فلج شده بودم و هیچ حرکتی نمیتونستم بکنم. یعنی فکر کردم تمام این دنیا رو سرم خراب شد. فکر کردم که دیگه اون کسی رو که من همیشه عاشقانه دوست داشتم و هنوز هم دارم تموم شد. به همین راحتی کشتنش، اعدامش کردم.
البته هیچ وقت رسما اینو اعلام نکردن. من چون اون موقع آزاد بودم خودم دنبال میکردم طریق خانواده ها، نه جسدو به کسی تحویل دادن نه خبری دادن.
In 2016, an audio file of a secret meeting that was held at the height of the mass killings was leaked. In the recording, some of the key officials responsible for the mass killings can be heard discussing the operation in hair-raising details. Three decades on, they, along with other perpetrators, remain in high positions of power and have faced no accountability for their crimes. The secrecy surrounding how the victims were killed and where they were buried means that they are still forcibly disappeared. The torture of their families is ongoing. These crimes are so serious that they constitute crimes against humanity. Amnesty International is calling for UN investigations. The Iranian authorities relentlessly seek to hide the truth from the world. With your help, we are determined to stop them. The perpetrators must face accountability. Families and survivors have the right to truth and justice.
میخوام قبر بچه‌ام پیدا کنم. میخوام ببینم گور بچه‌ام کجا هستن. که اگه یه روز یک زنده ماندم رفتم ایران، برم خودم بنازم رو قبر بچه‌ام. برم بر بچه‌ام گریه نکنم. برم سینه تو خودم بنازم رو قبر بچه‌ام.
So young, so terrible. And now we're moving into the panel discussion. So I'd like to invite and I apologize for mangling your name. Mahbubeh Hoshmand.
Hello friends, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Mahbubeh, a former political prisoner of Iran. I was arrested along with my husband when I was 7 months pregnant. My son was born and raised in jail. I was a witness to the mass execution of political prisoners in the summer of 1988. I would like to ask everyone to stand up, please, and clap their hands in memory of those who lost their life searching for freedom. Thank you. I'd like to show you that photo of Mother Jahanshahi. Mother Jahanshahi started their commemoration in Vancouver many years ago. We dearly miss her. On Human Rights Day, we are here to continue commemorating our loved ones and asking for justice. We hope our voice will be heard. The gathering of the families of those who lost their lives started in Iran by the mothers of Khabaran in 80s. Khabaran is the name of a cemetery that was opened for the burial political prisoner murdered by the government, by the Iranian government in June 1981. Mothers of Khabaran devoted themselves to seeking truth and justice for the victim of mass execution starting in 1981 and peaking in the summer of 1988. Over the years, more mothers and families who lost loved ones joined the group. All mothers of those killed during the rule of the Islamic regime in Iran can be called Iranian Mothers for Justice. We are the family of justice. We are going to introduce our loved one to you and talk about how their loss affected our life forever. I started myself. This is my husband, Mansour Nejati. He was born in 1954. He was a political activist, a writer, a painter artist. He was sentenced 15 years in prison. They executed him in summer of 1988. My life have been deeply affected after he was executed, as well as my son's life. I remember how excited we were to have our first child. The government of Iran destroyed my dreams of raising our son together. My heart is still in pain. They took a simple joy of life away from me. Thank you for listening. The second person is my cousin. Her name is Mehri. Her name was Mehri Qanatabadi. Mehri was born in 1955. She was a teacher and a political activist. She was arrested in 1985 and executed in the summer of 1988. Mohsen Afshar Bakishlu, another cousin of mine, was born in 1955. He was a university student. He was arrested in the summer of 1984 and was executed in the summer of 1985. Mehri and Mohsen were in love. They were planning to get married right before they get arrested. And the last one of my family member who was executed, his name was Jalal Anatabari. He was born in 1949. He was a political activist and a factory worker. He had his first child at the time he was arrested in 1983. Jalal was executed in 1984. Mehri and Jalal were siblings. Now I ask Nasran to take the mic and talk about her dear father, who is not between us anymore.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on the unceded territory of the Coquitlam Nation. My name is Nasran Sufiss, and today I'm speaking on behalf of my family on the unlawful execution of my dad, Aomar Sufiss, by the Islamic Republic in Iran in 1988. My dad was born in the northern province of Gilan in 1952. He had a beautiful, peaceful childhood by the Caspian Sea. I don't know much of his life because he didn't live long enough to share his stories with me. I know he was politically conscious from a young age, so much so that he had to flee Iran during the Shah's regime and spent his time in India, obtaining his university degree in agricultural engineering. After the 1979 revolution, he returned to Iran and began working and teaching in his field. He was working on projects to help farmers and agricultural development in Iran. He was part of the political party Fedayeen, which under the Islamic Republic is a crime in itself. He met my mom, Mansoureh. They fell in love, married, and had their first child. These were the happy years unjustly cut short. I was born in 1983 at a time of political unrest. My mom tells me in the photos at the time of my birth, my dad looks distressed with the knowledge of his friends and colleagues being arrested and disappeared. Just 20 days after I was born, my dad was forced to go into hiding and live undercover. My mom and I joined him and lived in different safe houses in Tehran. He continued underground political work along with his professional work as an engineer. In the spring of 1985, on his way to work, he was abducted by Islamic Republic agents. His friend and colleague witnessed this and rushed to our home to warn my mom to help her destroy any documents before the agents came to our home. My mom was pregnant at this time with my sister Yasaman. I can't imagine the stress she was under, the terror and the pressure to keep it together and to act normally so that the agents didn't suspect we knew of his abduction. The agents came, they asked questions. She said she didn't know anything. They tore our home apart and they left. The rest of the years are filled with memories of weekly visits to Evin prison. The adults would have short visitations with telephone behind glass, as kids were allowed to enter the prison for short visitations. I must have been 4 or 5 at this time. The visits were exciting. I can still picture my dad laughing at my jokes. In 1986, my sister Yasmin was born prematurely due to the stress on my mom. My mom had hopes of my dad's release. She hoped for visitations at the hospital. She was denied any hope and any support. My baby sister soon joined my cousin Maziar and I on weekly prison visits. The prison guards were mean and rough. They viewed the kids of communists and atheists as unclean, so they wouldn't carry my baby sister. I would be the one to carry her in so my dad could see her. I have a clear memory of a prisoner hanging by his feet from the ceiling. I asked my dad, what was he doing? He told me he was exercising. And another memory, my dad's arm was broken. I asked him what happened. A game of football. From 1985 to 1988, my dad, along with thousands of others, were held in prison under torture and duress. In the summer of 1988, under Khomeini's orders, Iran's political prisoners were executed en masse. Estimates range between 10 and 30,000 political prisoners. We received one final phone call. He told me to be a good girl and to help my mom. Their bodies were buried en masse in unmarked graves. After these were hard times. I remember my grandma, Momanjan, fainting flat out on a Persian rug. Her telephone lines were cut so she could not share the news of her son's executions. She had to walk to a public payphone to make a phone call to her family and friends. I remember knowing something was going on, but no one told me the truth until years later. I remember dreaming and dreaming that my dad would come home with an eye always to the door. In one of his last conversations with his brother in prison, my dad asked my uncle Farad to rescue his daughters from Iran. He knew under the Islamic Republic we would not be safe, and he would not be here to protect us. My brave mom, only 33 at the time, made the impossible decision to leave behind her entire life, her family, and her friends, and we fled to Canada in 1991. I'm forever grateful to the Blackfoot and its Soofi nations for providing us refuge in our territories in the city of Regina and the province of Saskatchewan. We were lucky to have family. We were lucky to have support. While we were physically safe from the Islamic Republic, we faced the shared hardships of the families of political prisoners. Without financial stability, my mom made the decision to attend university while raising 2 kids as a single parent. When friends would ask me what happened to my dad, I would tell him he was killed in a car crash. Execution was too hard to explain. We were lucky to escape Iran. Those who remained faced financial and emotional hardships. There were no supports for the thousands of widowed mothers and affected families. Emotionally, they could not even share their experience publicly. At the time, there was no social media, there was no mental health support. I'm sharing my story today not because I want to. I'm sharing it as a warning, as evidence of the Islamic Republic's crimes against humanity. Their capacity for mass death, mass executions has not stopped since 1988. This was not a one-time crime. The executions continue at an escalating rate. In November of 2019, known as Bloody November, they responded to mass national protests by shutting down the internet and killing 1,500 protesters over 2 days, arresting thousands of others. Since the Women Life protests sparked by the killing of Mahsa Jina Amini in September 2022, Iran has imprisoned over 20,000 innocent protesters. Each and every one of them is at risk of death at the hands of the Islamic Republic. In fact, Iran's rate of executions has increased over time. In 2023 alone, 600 people so far have been executed by the Islamic Republic that we know of. This warning is a request for global action. We cannot normalize the Islamic Republic and must hold them accountable for their crimes against humanity. I call for the release of all political prisoners. I ask for your support so that the Iranian people can fight to overthrow this murderous regime. I have hope that soon we will see a new era for Iran, that of women, life, freedom, with democracy, equality, and human rights for all. Thank you.
Dear friends, good afternoon and welcome to our panel. As the Pte Families, we've gathered here not only to share how we were impacted by the atrocities of the Islamic regime of Iran, but to defend our right to gain justice. There's a saying that time heals the emotional wounds and we move on. Is our pain really decreased over time? I don't think so. Whenever an innocent individual is murdered by the Islamic regime of Iran, the old wound reopens. My case is of no exception. Going back in time, on a bleak day of January 26, 1983, the announcement was short. 28 freedom fighters, including my youngest brother amongst them, were collectively executed in the northern city of Aomar. What were their crimes? Simply denying the established public regime of the clerics that had seized power by deluding the public that deeply believed in the Shiite faith of Islam. To learn what a traumatized individual may go through is best explained by Dr. Gabor Mate. Hence, I don't intend to focus on my own personal traumatic experience today. All I can say is that I had to work very hard through a lengthy process to deal with my bereavement. Not only I had lost my youngest brother, who turned 23 at the time, but I had also lost many of my comrades. Besides suffering from such a horrendous trauma, it was not easy to deal with displacement after escaping the news myself. Like so many, I too suffered from melancholy while building a new life in a culture that perceived me as the other and treated me as the other. However, hope was my sole anchor. Hope for an eventual victory over the dominant evil forces in Iran on one hand, and believing in the possibility of establishing a new life in exile. Hope kept me determined to remain alive, to be productive and remain positive despite the challenges I was facing. I believed in the future generations who would carry the torch of our fallen freedom fighters and try to move on. The Islamic regime of Iran has a black record since its inception in 1979. At the national level, the brutal Islamic regime has massacred thousands of our innocent people, among them the children of all ages, the youth, the old, the men, and the women from all walks of life. The list of the regime's black record is long, ongoing, and overwhelming. The atrocities of the last 3 years alone include the intentional downing of the Ukraine flight PS752 on January 8, 2020, that killed 167 passengers and the flight's crew members. On November 14, 2020, the crackdown on the peaceful demonstrators who were protesting against the increased price of gas resulted in the shooting and killing over 1,500 innocent protest marchers. Following the uprising of the Women Life Freedom Movement, the regime's sniper shooters blinded the protesting youth with shotguns. The government's atrocity authorities poisoned female students in elementary schools with carbon monoxide gas because of their civil disobedience. And the security forces filled the prisons with protesters. At the international level, this evil regime has committed crimes not only against the Iranians, but also against the Ukrainians, against the Syrians, against Afghans, against the Palestinians, against the Israelis, and more. This regime has extensively played a critical role in aiding Hamas organization by financing the terrorist groups for their subversive activities in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On the other hand, despite the denial of the Islamic regime to build nuclear weapons by its uranium enrichment program. Such an engagement is a serious threat to the safety of all nations because this regime cannot be trusted. Now the question remains as to why the Western countries turn a blind eye to the malicious operations of the Islamic regime as carried out by IRGS. Let's not go too far and have an overview of the double standard policies played by the Canadian politicians. Canada severed diplomatic ties with Iran and closed its embassy in Tehran due to the regime's violation of human rights in Iran, revoking nuclear non-proliferation pact, Holocaust denial, and threatening Israel to be wiped out. Although the Canadian government has closed its embassy in Iran, it has not totally terminated its ties with the Islamic regime. Over the decades, it has opened its doors to welcome the high-ranking officials of this regime and their offspring to live in Canada and make investments using millions and millions of dollars embezzled from the Iranian people's national wealth, while at the same time, it has denied ordinary Iranian citizens the visitor visas and therefore has deprived them from visiting their family members or close relatives who live here in Canada. The said privileged individuals are the kinsmen and the kinswomen of the regime's highest-ranking officials. Those are the people who are leading extravagant lifestyles in Canada right now. They live in the most expensive mansions, spend lavishly by exercising money laundering, infiltrating to the Iranian intelligentsia and activists. Where are our politicians to defend the rights of the ordinary Iranian Canadian citizens? Our Prime Minister participates in rallies and wholeheartedly displays solidarity with the Women's Life Freedom Movement and yet does not do his part by recognizing IRGS as a terrorist corps. In conclusion, the naivety of the Iranian masses resulted in a vote to support and strengthen the clerics as they established their power in 1979. But our nation has learned an invaluable lesson in that as long as this regime is in power, the people, the wildlife, the environment, and the climate in Iran will keep on deteriorating, which in turn will result in negative and dangerous global consequences. As long as this regime is in power, neither the Iranian people nor the people of the Middle East will live in peace. It's the responsibility of the Western governments and the government of Canada in particular to expel this scoundrelly dependence of the Islamic regime of Iran from Canada, to issue a permanent ban prohibiting their re-entry to Canada, and to declare IRGS as a terrorist organization. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Afsane Chaishi and I'm here today. And I know that every Iranian person has suffered in some way and has lost a person, a member in something. So, sorry, my voice is not that loud. So here's my story. It's about my brother, and his name was Reza Chaichi. And exactly 42 years ago, like the same time as now he was executed, he was captured by Islamic government in Iran in November 1981. He just turned 18 when he was jailed, and a month later he was executed just because he was handing out newspapers. That year, like in summer 1981, he had a major surgery because he lost one of his kidney, and he had to have a transplant for the other one. So he had a major surgery, and by the time that he was captured, he already was wounded, like he hasn't recovered completely from the surgery. And still they got him, put him in jail, and the funny thing is that they, it didn't even take 1 month, and they told us that they were going to release him, like on December 3rd, I know exactly the day, but they gave us his body instead of him alive. So, like what a mind sick can do that really to people that say that your son is going to be free, and then they give us the body instead. And it was very hard for all of us, especially for my mom and dad. And my father got sick like 3 years later, and he passed away. And my mom never forgot him, and like it didn't matter, any of us didn't mean anything to her. She was just thinking of him the whole time that she was living. And you know, for us as siblings, it had very hard effect as well. At that time, I was only like 15, 16 years old, and like in school, I was at high school, and I had to say like my uncle died even in the war. So because I couldn't go to school for a week or so, I was so sick, and I had to lie. I couldn't say that I lost my brother. And for my sisters and brothers, like it was so hard. You know, it was threatening all the time to all of us, my family. And I couldn't go to university because just simply I had a brother who was executed. And it just came to the point that we all had to leave the country behind us, and still suffering. I know that it was so hard for so many people, like majority of Iranian people. And I know families that, you know, had lost a few kids, brothers and sisters, and they were killed. But hopefully one day this regime is going to appear in a court, and we all are going to ask for justice. And just until then, we just need to keep fighting. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Hello everybody, I want to say thank you to the organizers of this event, and especially Mahbubeh. I'm here to talk about this young, beautiful man. His name was Reza Qorashi. He's my brother. Honestly, I couldn't prepare a speech for today. It was hard for me. This is the first time. I didn't have even his picture framed for this event. I did that. And I don't know, it was very hard. I think only people who have lost their beloved people can understand what I'm saying. For all these years, I've been trying not to think about it. That's what it is. And finally, it caught me. I was not brave enough to do that, maybe. And thank you, Mahbubeh.
Thank you for coming.
You made me to think a lot and to think. And I'm wondering why I was trying not to think about it. The second part is even more interesting. This is my understanding of what is happening to me. I think I was trying not to think about him, to keep fighting against his murderers. I didn't want to be distracted I didn't want it to slow down. This is how I explain it to myself. I don't know, honestly. That's why I couldn't prepare speech, and it was kind of artificial for me, superficial to prepare a speech. I thought I go there and honestly say what was happening to me last few days, thinking of this meeting and coming here and talking about Abdi. He was born in 1961. I'm 5 years older than him, and I remember his birth. My mother was talking about him way before he was born. Abdi is coming, Abdi is coming, and my mother knew he's a boy, and that's his name, Abdi. And I was so happy that Abdi is coming. And on the day that my mother was delivering him, they sent me somewhere else. And then that evening, when I came back, they said, oh, Abdi's here, Abdi's here. And I was very happy to see Abdi and rushed into one of the rooms that he was there. And I saw something wrinkled, something with lots of bloody face, something like that. No interesting thing. I thought now I'm going to have a playmate. But something was there that didn't even move. And they didn't let me to touch him. I lost interest. And I never thought of him until he was a teenager and we got very close. More than two brothers can be close to each other. And then I had no idea how he died. I know he was executed 1983, but that's all I know, and I don't dare to search for the details. That's the hard part for me. Why they are doing that to us? Why are so many people get killed, innocent people, by these horrible governments, the Islamic government in Iran and other governments, many other countries? They keep killing me. Maybe I was also under the pressure of these days. They're killing so many people in Gaza. They are trapped between two terrorists, the Hamas and the Israeli government, backed by the United States. Maybe we should put an end to all of this. Maybe us Iranian, what we have experienced, maybe one day we get rid of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Maybe if one day the revolution, women, life, freedom can overthrow this horrible government, maybe we can take one step forward towards the day that we don't need to have meetings like this. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Kamine Sadeghi, and I would like, first of all, thank you Amnesty International and Justice for Iran for providing this opportunity to speak out about our loved ones who've been killed by the Islamic regime in Iran. Today I want to talk about my cousin. His name was Dardush. He was born in 1960 in Tri-City. He had a big influence on me and my sister and my family. When we were kids, him and his brothers, they used to come to our home, and he used to tell us the stories and make us, entertained. We loved his stories and his imagination. In 1979, he became, coincided with the 1979 revolution. He became leftist. He read a lot of leftist books, and he became interested, and he joined the organization called PECAR. And Dariush was a teacher. He contributed strongly and significantly in educating and organizing grassroots organizations, and he was playing a big role to establishing Teachers Association in Iran. Dariush was a kind, caring, and respectful individual. He was deeply loved by family members, friends, his students, co-workers, and his neighbors. He always spoke to us about creating a humane society with equality, justice, and peace, making a world free from discrimination, violence, and dictatorship. And he was my role model. In the summer of 1981, when Dariush and his students and some of his colleagues went for a hiking trip, and his brother, who was a teacher at the time, they got arrested. IRGC, after arresting them, they went after to his younger brother, who was 18 at the time. And 3 brothers from the same family got arrested and tortured. And the story after I heard about the torture, it was mind-blowing. Dariush was sentenced only for 2 years. But in the same year, in February of 1981, the political tension was high in prison. Dariush affected significantly to change prisoners' situation, because we heard the prisoners were cramped in small cells and they were beaten and tortured, and so he was organizing prisoners to make a change. To intimate and suppress the prisoner, Dariush and 10 of his fellow prisoners were persecuted under the torture for forced confession by persecutor Lajwardi. Dariush and his fellow inmates refused strongly to make false confession in an interview. Therefore, they were tortured extensively and subsequently executed. We learned that Dariush's both hands and feet, along with several ribs, were broken, and he was unable to stand before the execution squad. After his execution, his family received a cruel and sudden notification without any details regarding the reason for his execution. Only a bag containing his personal belongings. Dariush's execution inflicted profound emotional and psychological trauma, grief, and lasting impact in our family, and even, especially me, and made me to follow his path and make a change. I remember the day we went to the cemetery. There was an unmarked mass grave. In a corner, I saw Dariush's mother. She was crying, howling, and digging the dirt to find her son's body, because she didn't know where's her son's body. She was yelling and crying and digging. It was raining that day. I remember clear crystal. And that made me no, this is not okay. This is not justice. And this is not happening just to Dariush. And it happens. That year, I remember, hundreds like Darius got executed and disappeared. And the family didn't know what happened to them. I want to be the voice of Darius and thousands like Darius. I want to ask Amnesty International to use your power, and all of you, to put pressure on international body to expel Islamic regime from all the international bodies. Please do that. Please help us to end execution in Iran. Please help us to release all the political prisoners in Iran. Please let Canada become safe haven for IRGC's member and Iranian regime's members. That makes me very angry when I hear that. Over 700 just being recognized that IRGC members and Iranian government members, they are living in Canada and they have Canadian citizenship. That's a shame. Shame to all people, all of us. It's like it makes me so angry. For me, it's like a betrayal to us. We lost our loved one, 18, 13, 12, and even younger, just for freedom, just for speaking out, just for basic human rights. But they get imprisoned, tortured, raped, and killed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My utmost gratitude to the organizers of this event for all their activities for keeping this flame alive. I am Mohammad Payam, the eldest siblings of Mohsen Peygamberzadeh. Obviously, presenting on such a tragic life story in 5 to 7 minutes, we need to keep it very brief. I hope I can do that. Mohsen was arrested by the armed thugs of the Islamic regime in a brutal raid in Qom city on Sunday, August 23rd, 1981. Subsequently, he was killed under intense torture during the interrogation by the regime's interrogators at some point of time within the 10 days after his arrest. Only 10 days after his arrest, on Friday, September 4th, 1981, Mohsen's name was announced publicly among the execution of 12 young people at the beginning of the regime's weekly ceremonial of the Friday prayer in Qom. Then the same announcement of the Revolutionary Court was published in the next day's newspaper. Contrary to the execution announcement, all the direct and indirect evidence pointed to the fact that Mohsen's death happened during applying extreme torture to break him down and to obtain information about his co-activist friends. However, according to some strong evidence, the torturers tormented Mohsen's body to death, but could not open his tight lips and could not even make him renounce his beliefs and dedication to freedom and social justice. Moreover, no corpse of Mohsen was given to our parents, and they were not even pointed to a grave, in fact, if there was any. Our parents were bluntly told that because Mohsen remained kafir, meaning infidel, and so-called anti-revolutionary to his last breath, even his dead body did not deserve to be buried in a Muslim cemetery. And that's why neither the corpse was given to, nor grave was to be shown to my parents. Instead, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard arrested our parents and put them in jail for 48 hours just because they were persistent in their rights to demand for Mohsen's corpse, or at least the place of his burial. About Mohsen. Mohsen was a highly intelligent and also very sensitive and compassionate teenage boy. Yes, teenage boy. He was only 17 years old at the time of arrest and murder by the thugs of the Islamic regime. Even though his life was cut so short, he positively influenced many people who knew him or related with him. Mohsen had become an energetic student activist for human rights and social justice in the toughest social environment as the city of Qom, in where he was born and raised, was and still is the center of the Islamic institutions in Iran. Needless to say, Mohsen's personality was in fact representative of most of the thousands of the young men and women who were mass murdered by the Islamic regime in Iran in that bloody year of 1981 and the dark decade of 1980s in Iran. The impact of the horrific state killing of Mohsen on the immediate and extended family. Generally, there is no need to mention the extreme trauma of what happened to Mohsen's family and the continuation of a series of traumatic consequences for years thereafter, and the whole family. Perhaps the conventional term PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, could not sufficiently describe the impacts of such horrible events on the victims' families. I would like to point to a very important aspect of the state tortures and killings during the 1980s. While the 8 years long Iran and Iraq war particularly gave an absolute free pass to the regime to brutally suppress and any opposition voices under almost absolute ignorance of the society at the time. The fascistic ideological Islamic regime had an almost absolute grip on the news and the limited media at the time, and also had the most advantages of their religious dominance over the minds of the delusional masses. Having someone in your family arrested or killed by the regime was projected as shameful on their families. Even funerals or any memorials for the children and family members killed by the regime were absolutely not permitted or tolerated. In our family, of course, the biggest traumatic impact was on our parents, beyond description. They never had closure for the horrific murder incidents of their son. Our mother had a false hope for years that Mohsen somehow and someday would show up somewhere. The grief for both of them was an open-ended process. The devastating impact was long-lasting on the two youngest sisters of Mohsen, one only 8 years old at the time, and the other was in junior high school. Mohsen used to look after her, next to our busy mother, who was a full-time teacher and a housewife as well. Nothing short of a severe trauma on my remaining brother and the oldest sister. And finally, for me, in the immediate family. Besides sharing the above trauma of Mohsen's killing, I have also been feeling a complex survivor guilt inside me. However, irrationally perceived, and I will likely carry it to my last breath. The survivor's guilt due to Mohsen's killing further deepened as more than a dozen of my best university friends and others later killed in the prisons by the Islamic regime in Iran during the bloody massacre of 1981. The truth is that I've never felt that I deserve my survival due to sheer luck. I've been feeling that it was Mohsen's life which would have deserved to be spared. He would have been a great human being, and for his life, I would have wished to die instead. And certainly, I'm not alone among the survivors of that bloody year in Iran that would feel this way. I'm sure there are some among us in this very room, and some spoke about it. My feelings may not be considered as rational, yet rationality is just a mind construct of the humans. But humans' feelings and emotions are the real product of billions of years of life evolution. All in all, consequent to Mohsen's killing, the whole family was psychologically shattered, geographically dispersed, and emotionally wounded beyond the true and full recovery to date. For our parents, the survival and safety of their remaining children was their main mission after the big loss of Mohsen, and they were committed to it all the way as their life priority. And they did not obtain a peace of mind on that mission until finally all their children left their homeland, Iran, for good. Thank you.
On behalf of our group, thank you so much for listening deeply to our thought, feeling. And maybe for some of us, like Mustafa, was the first time talking about their loved one. We are pleased that for the first time, family get together and we ask for justice, and that gonna be continued till we get to the justice. Thanks again.
I just want to thank from the Amnesty International group the great courage of the panel and thank them for sharing their extremely difficult story. But it does remind us as Amnesty members, it puts a face to the people that we work, on whose behalf we work for. So we do have a few, I think we'll move into a very short music break while we all sort of process what we've just heard, and then we'll do some introductions. And we have a message from the Executive Director of Amnesty International. We have some of our local politicians here that we want to give a chance to say a few words, but if we could just have a short musical break, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
After all of those emotional stories. I'm sorry.
Very nice voice.
This song that I just performed and the next two has been composed and arranged by my friend Kevin. and he's gonna perform.
Thank you. The voice. وقتی از تو می‌نویسم لحظه های زندگیمو بعد سالها که تو نیستی اما اینجا خاطراته نمیدونم وقتی که میباره من یاده تو میاره من یاده تو میاره هر قطره‌ای که میباره خاطره‌ای جا میذاره قلبم از جا کنده میشه این دلم پر غصه میشه وقتی میباره وقتی از تو مینویسم لحظه های زندگیمو بعد سالها که نیستی اما اینجا خاطراته نمیدونم وقتی بارون که میباره من یاده تو میاره من یاده تو میاره من یه نوشته دیدم چند سال پیش خیلی جالب بود اینو براش یه شعر درست کردم گفتم اگه شما همراهی بکنید شاید این جمعمون رو خیلی حس و حال هوای خوبی پیش بده اون نوشته این بود میگفت یه شب یادم میاد بابا بزرگ میگفت یه شب تو آسمون برات ستاره‌ای میاد که فقط همون یه شب نمیشه سعی کن تو میتونی بهش نگاه بکنی و ازش لذت ببری چون بعدش تو میمونی و یه آسمون پر ستاره که هیچ کدومش مال تو نیست برات ستاره‌ای میاد قدر اونو شب بدون هی هی ستاره جلو هی نرو از آسمونو تا تو برات میخونم هی هی ستاره جلو هی نرو از آسمونو تا تو برات میخونم نشکر دیگه ستاره ای این شبا بیشتر نداریش که دیگه فردا نداریش ستاره جونامه نورو از آسمونا تا تو برات میخونم ستاره جونامه نورو از آسمونا تا تو برات میخونم شبای دیگه که میاد تو هستی و ستاره ها اما ستاره یه دله نیستش بین ستاره ها ستاره جونامه نورو از آسمونا تا تو برات میخونم ستاره جونامه نورو از آسمونا تا تو برات میخونم شبای دیگه که میاد تو هستی و ستاره ها اما ستاره یه دله نیستش بین ستاره ها ستاره جونامه نورو از آسمونا تا تو برات میخونم ستاره جونامه نورو از آسمونا تا تو برات میخونم
MP Benita Zarillo from Port Moody, Coquitlam to say a couple of words.
Thank you all so much, Simone. I'm Bonita Zarillo Hastam.
And I see Farad there that taught me how to say that. Thank you so much. So great to be here with you today on the unceded and traditional territory of the Coquitlam. And I prepared a few notes today because it is the 75th anniversary of the UN Declaration on Human Rights, and it is a somber day. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I cover my notes. So on the 75th anniversary of dedication of human rights, thank you so much for the invitation today, Hazel and Fred, so great. I just wanted to say a word about murdered, missing Indigenous women and girls in our country as we think about this. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Iran, across the world. Just for us to remember that there is a genocide also taking place in Canada in relation to Indigenous people and murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. And at this point in time, of the 231 calls to justice, only 3 have been completed. So with that in mind, we focus locally on respecting human rights and to create a safe community for all of us here. So it's so wonderful to be here with the community today. And part of human rights is that right to community, is that right to arts and science, and is that right to use and benefit from arts and science culturally. So as we know what a difficult time and what a terrible time your family and friends, as you shared today, are experiencing. Let's talk specifically about Iran today. That you're recreating that community, that culture here. It's living on, and it's so important for us to gather here today. Before I came out to see you today, I was at other community events, but I did have the opportunity to see the Nobel Peace Prize presentation for Narges Mohammadi. Her fight against gender oppression and human rights is all of our fight, and I saw that her family received her award today, although that happened in October. That was televised today, and I just think it's so important to recognize that, again, the next generation, the families, all of this work matters because it's going to perpetuate and it's going to be life-changing. So I just want to recognize Narges today and her family. So I've seen many people here today that have been advocating and in the fight here in Canada for the terrible situation, what happened to Mahsa Amini. Many of you, I've stood with you in Vancouver, here in Ottawa. I just want to thank you all for that work. And I want you to know that in my office, Port Moody, Coquitlam, and Moranbah, we have helped hundreds of families in our community alone to reunite with their loved ones here in Canada, to have their visa applications reconsidered. We pushed hard in our office when we saw that there seemed to be a disproportionate amount of refusals in our office of legitimate asks for families to have their reunification. So I want to say thank you all for your grace that you've given Sasha in my office and in my office, and we've had so many amazing reunifications. On that topic, I also wanted to talk a little bit about how many of you have shared with me your concerns about connections with the regime that are here in Canada and in our communities. And I want you to know that I've heard that our NDP family has heard that. We have been pushing, on the NDP front, we have been pushing not just on protection of our community here from the regime, but also on the money laundering that's happening. So I think that you all know that there's been movement on that recently. We believe strongly that families shouldn't be punished, and innocent families shouldn't be punished by this, but they should be protected. So I want to let you all know that I still appreciate to hear from families, and I know it's not easy to come forward, but this is something that we at the NDP believe strongly in. We have been pushing for IRGC to be classified as a terrorist organization. We're trying to protect innocent family members that may be conscripted, but at this point there's movement on the file finally. I think it's finally come through to the government. I want to thank Fred too for all the support that you've given me over the time and information that's helped to move this along. I know you've spoken about it many times in situations just like this.
Also preventing of those people coming to Canada.
Exactly, Fred. So as we recognize today, I recognize that the world is no closer after 75 years of this to equality for all. And you know, a lot of that is driven by greed in our global world, in our world. So as the NDP representative that's standing up here, I want you to know that we are going after corporate greed as well. We have 1% of the world that is driving the agendas and the initiatives right now. and we have a lot of work to do, but we should stay focused on our communities, protect each other in our communities. I raise my hands to all of you that are here today, recognizing this very important day, and I look forward to seeing you all out in the community. And Yalda is coming up at the end of the year. I see Melody back there. Melody, thank you for teaching me and introducing me on the Yalda. So I'll be looking forward to celebrating with all of you in a couple of weeks on that. And thank you so much for the time and space.
Thank you so much, Benita. That was very good words. We're now going to, I'd like to actually introduce Don Wright. He's the National Outreach Coordinator for Amnesty International. He's come today and he's brought a video. He didn't want to speak.
He didn't?
No, he trusts me. So he's brought a video from our Executive Director in Ottawa to talk about the importance of Right for Rights, and I've seen lots of you sign our letters. She will talk about why it's so important. So thank you so much.
Okay, turn the light down.
Hi everyone, my name is Katini Vyabandi and I am the Secretary General of Amnesty International Canada English Speaking Section, and it is my pleasure to welcome you as you join us for the 2023 edition of Right for Rights. You are part of a worldwide movement, the Amnesty International Global Right for Rights campaign, which happens every year around December 10th on International Human Rights Day. And you are on the right side of history, in the company of millions around the world who are also writing letters, sending petitions and messages around the world. And while your contribution may sometimes feel like a single drop in the vast ocean, particularly in the times we're in, taken together, these small and simple actions can make a huge difference in the lives of others. As you probably know, Human Rights Day was established by the United Nations to celebrate the adoption and proclamation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. And this year, 2023, marks the 75th anniversary of this groundbreaking document that laid the foundation for human rights as we know them today. Sadly, despite the promises held out by the Declaration, the promise that every person is born free and equal in dignity and in rights, we know all too well that governments and corporations continue to violate the rights of individuals and communities worldwide. And this is where Amnesty International comes in. We carefully research, document, and report on these violations, often in real time. We pressure governments and other officials to make things right, and we back that up by providing our members and the public with information and tools to take effective action. Since it began in 2001, Right for Rights has reached millions of people just like you who have joined together to help change the lives of those whose human rights were under attack. More than 50 million actions have been taken, and over 100 people featured in our campaigns have experienced positive outcomes to their cases, thanks to your actions. Isn't that incredible? So whether you are participating on your own or connecting with others in your school or your community, please know that your voice matters. Every year, real change happens because of your letters and your actions. People wrongfully imprisoned are released, abusers are brought to justice, and people in prison are treated more humanely. So thank you. Thank you for showing up for your community. Thank you for supporting people who have been harassed, threatened, and jailed for who they are. Thank you for putting pressure on government leaders and decision makers. And thank you for showing care for the people and their families whose lives have been shattered by governments and other authorities. Your words are powerful. Your words change lives. Now let's write some letters and change the world.
So for those of you who haven't yet signed anything, please do. But right now we have a bit of a surprise. Well, it's a surprise only to Farad, but the rest of us know about it. I want to also introduce maybe the members of Amnesty International can just wave their hands because, yes, thank you. Joy, Michelle, Nancy, Erik, Aomar, who is doing all our tech stuff. Amanda, Mohammed, Erik, Mary, and of course Farad. So I just wanted to thank them for all their work today, and to ask Shima Parsa to come and introduce a short video. Shima's an activist for women, life, freedom, and she wouldn't let me say anything else about her.
Thank you. Today we gather around here to celebrate Human Rights Day. To me, it's a bit unfortunate that at this day and age, in 21st century, there are still so many injustices around the world that we still have to gather around to fight for rights. Mostly for those who have cravings for money, for power, or those who don't care. But luckily, there are people who care. There are people who have dedicated their lives to fight for justice. And any day that I meet one of these people is my lucky day. Today, I feel extremely fortunate to know one of these people over the last year. This person has dedicated his life to be the voice of voiceless and to help and empower people like me to do so as well. I'm very honored today to dedicate this part of the program to Farad Soofi.
I think this goes to you, to young people. See the doctor, see the medical doctor. She left everything, came to this country because she wants freedom and she wants to be a voice of those voices in Iran. I haven't been in Iran for 52 years. You just came, you are doing work. So young people are doing work. I'm 73, I have done my work. And these are the people that are going to do work. And there is somebody with us I just noticed. Saeed Malakpur. Saeed was 10 years in that prison, 10 years. And Amnesty International did some work to release him. And he's here with us. So Amnesty is working. His sister, Mariam, worked tirelessly for his release in Canada, worked with Amnesty International. So these are the good work.
I've been doing this for 1 year. He's been doing this for 52 years.
Oh, thank you.
But we put together a video, Mr. Maichi has made it, and I want to invite you all to watch it, only 2 to 3 minutes.
What's it?
When preparing a program such as this, small observations can often lead to interesting new perspectives on your subject. Fred Soofi's story is a case in point.
I don't believe I will go because
When I arrived at Fred's house for an interview, the first thing that caught my eye was what he was wearing. My instincts told me to ask him about it.
What's with the t-shirt, Fred?
When I'm wearing this t-shirt?
Yeah.
Because I believe every word this t-shirt says. This t-shirt says Amnesty, human rights now. And I want human rights now, not 10 years from now, not even 2 months from now. Today we have to fight for human rights of every human being.
We would light this candle as a symbol.
I remembered one of the first times I ever saw Fred was at an Amnesty International vigil. I knew he actively pursued their cause. I had never known why.
I did have a brother, which he was a political prisoner, and he was executed in Iran. So that is.
Your brother was executed
in Iran just because he fought for freedom. That's all he wanted. And I believe to this organization is fighting for other political prisoners, for which they are in prisons. They are being tortured because they want to be free, because they want to say what they want to say. That's the only reason they are in prison. Most of the people even don't know there's an organization exists with name Amnesty International. And for Canadian, they cannot believe you can go to jail, spend years in jail because you don't like your government. Here you don't like your government, you vote and you change them. There, you just say you don't like it, you go to jail. Yeah, why we don't put this one together?
There are people and companies who perform charitable deeds because it's good business. It's free publicity. In December, Fred Soofi provides the homeless with a gourmet Christmas dinner. His motives, however, are typically his.
It wasn't for publicity, I didn't do it. I thought, I do owe to the community. Because this is community, with support of community, I got to that position, which I do have a successful business. So I have to do something. And I did part of it, a small thing, I did feed Christmas dinner to needy people, which I'm going to continue to do that and work with the community, because what I do have is from this community, from these people.
Thank you again.
Oh, thank you, Mommy.
And I want to present you this token of appreciation just from some of the people that you touched their lives.
Thank you. Let me open this.
The artists are writing
wasn't part of the schedule. It didn't even schedule.
That was
short of time now. And
no, we are not.
Oh my God.
We calculate. The artist
oh, very well. It is in
famous.
Farsi, but it's oh wow. Thank you very much. Yes, I think we have to all to fight, because we have many other prisoners all over the world. Especially today, it's getting much worse than when I had that video. When I had that video, it was bad, but not as bad as today even. Today it's just bad everywhere. Just look at this, what the innocent people are being dying in Palestine. They've been, so much injustice. So we have to do it. And we have to do it. We have to commit to that. And I think one day, hopefully, we will have that injustice in the world. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Yes, we're very proud in our Amnesty group to have Fred. He keeps us on, well, I would say he keeps us on the straight and narrow, but he keeps us fed. So it's my pleasure now to invite Ramin Majuri up. What?
Ramin.
Sorry. I'll let you say your own name. But he is a writer, journalist, publisher, editor, artist, member of the North Van Art Council, a painter, and a sculptor. And he's going to be reading one of his poems. Sorry, and please say your own name.
Sorry, hi, my name is Ramin Mahbubeh. Good afternoon. This is a poem that I wrote about a year ago at the onset of Women Life Freedom Revolution. It's called What Does It Take? What does it take for me to rise? What does it take? How long? How many lives? What does it take for pain to reach my core? Why am I waiting? What am I hoping for? Mohsen, Mahsa, Serena, Hadith, and Kian. The list goes on. The list is endless. The killings go on and on. What does it take to go from sad to mad? Sitting idle will not suffice. It never goes from worse to bad. What does it take? They killed thousands. They killed en masse. They pick and choose now. Can I still whisper, this too shall pass? Days, nights, hours, minutes, suffused with pain. What does it take? For Holland silent, can I remain? Stamped on our faces, the 1,000-yard stare, hearts clouded with sorrow, immeasurable, heavy to bear. The going got tough, the road ahead proved rough. What does it take? More mere words are no longer enough. Men, women, boys, girls, old and young, brains scattered on the pavement. They did no wrong. Silent screams echoing void. Be their voices, they say. Let them be heard, so I'm told. Blood-soaked daggers in hand. Killers grin, baring their teeth. What does it take for hours to decisively unsheath? What does it take? The young chained men candled in dungeons, gallows raised galore, murderous thugs roam with impunity. Your existence we abhor, your creeds we deplore. Cries of anguish cut my soul deep, lifeless bodies snatched and seized. Grieving mothers ceaselessly weep. What does it take? What does it entail for the sun to shine again, for justice to prevail? What does it take? What's the price to pay for a peaceful night and a brighter day? What does it take to kill the beast, to kill them all from sea to sea, from west to east? Gather in Azadi Square to feast, dance with joy for freedom found, pronounce them done, dead, deceased. This is a solemn promise, not a bluff. Enough is enough is enough. We shan't rest. Relentlessly we endure, and we will overcome. To this we attest, we abjure. The fight continues to the end of your fiefdom. This is not a struggle. This is a war victorious for women, for life, for freedom. I was also asked to recite a poem in Persian. This is by the great Ahmad. It's in Persian, so. عاشقان سرشکسته گذشتند شرمسار ترانه‌های بی‌هنگام خویش و کوچه‌ها بی زمزمه ماند و صدای پا. سربازان شکسته گذشتند خسته بر اسبان تشریح و لطه‌های بیرنگ غروری نگونسار بر نیزه‌هایشان. تو را چه سود فخر به فلک برفروختن هنگامی که هر غبار راه لعنت شده نفرینت می‌کند؟ تو را چه سود از باغ و درخت که با یازها به داس سخن گفتی؟ آنجا که قدم برنهاده باشی گیاه از رستن تن میزند، چرا که تو تقوای خاک و آب را هرگز باور نداشتی. فغان که سرگذشت ما سرود بی اعتقاد سربازان تو بود که از فتح قلعه روسپیان باز می‌آمدند. باش تا نفرین دوزخ از تو چه سازد که مادران سیاه پوش داغداران زیباترین فرزندان آفتاب و باد هنوز از سجاده ها سر برنگرفتند.
thank some of our supporters and volunteers. Without them, we couldn't do that event. On behalf of Iranian Group for Justice. I'd like to thank Reza Hoshmand for financial support, Majid Mahichi from Bahroz TV for recording the event, and many more help. Bahroz, the artist of appreciation writing for Farad Soofi, Sima Afarzadeh, Humane Kabiri for supporting on media support, and our volunteers, Sohela Sherwafi, Rosita Moini Shirazi, and Mandana Adami. Thanks to all of them. Please clap your hands.